And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go out to Rich Noyes joining us from the Media Research Center. Rich, good morning.
Morning, Kevin.
One word for you. This will hopefully be the biggest softball you have all morning long. Omarosa.
Well, this is, she's peddling a book. Obviously, she's decided she's going to, keep going with her reality TV mode of operation. But what's amazing is, I guess we've seen a lot of these amazing moments over the last couple of years, but the so-called respectable media has just poured on the airtime to this Omarosa story. They don't find her terribly credible. They point out the inconsistencies in her story. They acknowledge that she doesn't have any evidence to support the charges she's making. We have a lot of denials, but no real evidence. And yet we've gotten, by now well over 100 minutes of coverage on ABC, CBS, and NBC, all promoting this book, all sort of floating the idea that, President Trump, said some awful things on The Apprentice set years ago, which Mark Burnett, by the way, the executive producer of The Apprentice, denies, says never happened, never any tapes. That doesn't matter. They're just enjoying the food fight. They're enjoying this tarnishing of the president's image. I can't imagine if a ex-employee of the Obama White House had come out with a whole bunch of unsubstantiated charges against President Obama, what the media reaction would have been. But my guess is it wouldn't have been this red carpet treatment we've seen for Omarosa.
I'm sitting there, Rich, and as someone who has such great respect, even if we disagree with the bent of these great political institutions, let's Meet the Press, going back to Ed Newman and Tim Russert and all these things, and I'm thinking, here's the cliche line, is this the sign of the apocalypse that Chuck Todd is interviewing Omarosa, taking her seriously? And I don't know if Chuck Todd is enjoying it or is repulsed by it.
Probably a little bit of both. I mean, look, it's first of all, her people are clever in the fact that this is the middle of summer, Congress is on recess, is sort of a dead period, so that's exactly when you sort of put something like this out there, and people who might pass on it during a busy period will take it, and then it'll get a little bit more airtime. But the media, they used to have a responsibility to vet these things. Look at this. Is this the kind of thing you want to put on your air? Do you think there's some truth to it, or is this just hype from someone who wants to find a new way to cash in on fame and celebrity? And to me, this sort of fails the test of being worth all this time and attention. I would say, the other thing that I guess the media would argue is the White House has responded. The president's personally responded. That sort of helps keep the story alive. On the other hand, the coverage was there before the White House responded. They were sort of, forced into the corner because, this was a national news story. Well, either you engage or you look guilty, so they engaged.
Right, and, the idea of taping John Kelly and then playing those tapes and then the tapes of the president, I mean, Omarosa, does she, trying to say, well, the indignity, and even Chuck Todd saying in that Meet the Press interview, Rich, saying, look, these things are, this is standard procedure, and the faux outrage that she's ginning up. And I'm thinking to myself, are there going to be repercussions from this? I mean, we have a great respect for the institutions of the White House, and then to just kind of casually treat this as a media car wash is, I don't know. Again, are we going off the rails here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's going to be, national security ramifications of this, if this is in breach of what a White House employee, I don't know if she had security clearances. I don't think her work necessarily got in there, but, you do need to be cleared to work in the White House to some extent. You do need to follow their rules. I'm not sure what they can do about it now that she's an ex-employee. But, yeah, this is something that, would not be tolerated. I mean, it was only 20 years ago. It feels like, 10 lifetimes ago. The media were railing about the betrayal because Linda Tripp, a White House employee, taped a phone conversation with Monica Lewinsky, and that helped get that whole investigation going because of what was on those those phone tapes, and that was seen as a treasonous, traitorous act. There's no, T words being thrown at Omarosa. I think they're sort of enjoying it because they don't like this president. And they do like, when he's in moments of discomfort like this. I don't think they have much respect for her either, but, they'll help her sell a few books.
Well, again, I just go back to the purpose of it all, which is just very, very strange indeed. The media, they're looking at the midterms. We have this race in Ohio. It looks like the Republican won, but the media is not declaring that, saying the Democrat won even though the Republican won. Is this, again, business as usual, permeating from the usual media suspects?
Well, we had a very close one of these special elections in Pennsylvania where the Democrat was ahead on election night by, just a small number of votes, I think about 1,000 votes there, and he declared victory, and the media rapidly followed suit. There's almost no way this is going to be overturned on a recount or a canvass. I think the margin's about 1,500 votes with only, a couple thousand of provisional ballots to look at. But they want to give the Democrats space. They want to keep the sort of blue wave concept alive. And, we'll have to see. I suspect this is a Republican victory, but these two are going to face each other in the fall. But if you look at the coverage, this is one of those where going into the election, there was all this talk of, is this going to be another defeat for Republicans? Are they going to lose this seat? And that would open up the tidal wave. Well, Republicans seem to have won this seat. I would say they have won this seat. I'm not sure, the margin is a little on the small side, but, summertime special elections are not, everybody, voting the way they would in the fall. So we'll have to see. But I think this means a whole lot less in terms of blue wave and a lot more in terms of, you can see the media wanting to sort of give the space to the Democrats to sort of do as much as they possibly can to try to get their majority in the fall.
Our great friend Rich Noyes joining us from the Media Research Center, newsbusters.org, looking at some of the headlines today from Newsbusters, one of our favorite sites. I love this. NBC whines about the president trying to rescue an American pastor from Turkey. Wow.
Yeah, Turkey has had this American pastor in prison and then house arrest for the better part of 2 years, trumped up charges involving the coup a while ago. Well, the president decided, let's put some pressure on them. They're having a currency crisis in Turkey right now, so he actually added some more sanctions on them, tariffs on them in terms of their steel and aluminum. That would, maybe put a little bit more pressure in the economy and get them to see it his way. You've got nothing but defiance from Turkey, but, NBC is painting President Trump as the troublemaker in all of this. If he, why is he starting this fight? Now, this fight was started a long time ago when Turkey put this pastor under house arrest. And, for them to sort of pick up the story when President Trump takes a counteraction is so deceitful and so disingenuous. It'll be interesting to see if this pastor does get released, whether that'll be a positive story and giving credit to President Trump, like when the North Koreans released 3 people, or if that will be sort of buried and pushed aside. I'm not sure anymore. Good news isn't good news. Bad news is bad news. It's everything's upside down these days.
Indeed. Rich, what should we be looking out for since these is the dog days of summer? More Omarosa. Again, I got to believe somewhere Chris Matthews is looking at his producers and saying before the segment last night, guys, really, do I have to do this?
Yeah. Look, I mean, she's on a book tour. You're probably going to see a lot more of her. They're talking about Michael Avenatti, sort of the last Omarosa, maybe running for president in the Iowa caucuses, or Iowa caucuses. He's, of course, the lawyer for Stormy Daniels, the porn star who's gotten more than her 15 minutes of fame. I think the media have become, they don't mind sort of demeaning and degrading themselves to be part of the Trump opposition. And you're going to see a whole lot more of this, particularly in the when there's a period here of lack of real news. Well, this kind of stuff can fill the airwaves, and we'll see a lot more of it, I imagine, before Labor Day.
And funny, the news of Peter Strzok being fired wasn't really carried much by the mainstream media outlets yesterday.
No, I think people understand, he was an embarrassment to the FBI. He didn't help himself with his performance before Congress. That he is not one of the heroes of this whole operation. I mean, he of course was the FBI agent who was just so vicious in his personal private text messages about Trump during the campaign, and then he claimed that had no bearing whatsoever on his decision to sort of ignore the Hillary investigation that he was working on and spend more time on the Trump investigation that he was also part of. He happened to be sort of, straddling both of these worlds. But none of that was a result of his animus and his bias, that he was just, following the book. I don't think people believe that, and now he's been fired, and I think, they sort of want to, write him out of the story because he's not easy to defend.
Rich, people want to help the Media Research Center. Appreciate your work going back to the days of the VHS and all those cassettes that we always joke about when we have you on. It's amazing, having done this for several years with you. We go back to the VHS and the newsletters, and today everything is digital.
It's all digital, and, we still have the old VHS tapes. We pull them out from time to time, but now you can go to our Newsbusters blog, see the video, shortly after it's aired, and it's all right there, easy to find, easy to index, much faster than the old snail mail delivery.
Now, I got to ask you, when you bring in interns and new employees, do you ever take them to the archives and say, folks, these tapes are older than you, and here's something called a VCR that was revolutionary in our day, and you might have read about it in your history books or your iPads or tablets or something of that nature?
Yeah, no. In the olden days, it was my generation that had to help our parents with the VCRs. Now we have to help the younger generation with the VCRs because they're looking at it just like the elders did 30 or 40 years ago.
Rich, thank you very much. Always appreciate having you on, sir.
Thanks a lot, Kevin.
Rich Noyes joining us, Media Research Center. Outstanding job. Coming up next, R&R about Paulette Jordan, Liberty Linda about protesters, and Sean Hannity has some advice for Fox News. All that more with me, Kevin Miller, on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, 622. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. R&R, good morning.
Hey, K. Millie. I'm professionally trained to know that your voice is distinct, and a gift. It's wonderful to listen to your rapport with a man named Rich. You are connected. Well, my subject is I'm still intuitive and intelligent enough to know that Paulette Jordan certainly knows that it's a far stretch of the imagination to even be a governor. She's got brilliance, and she shines in the midst of everybody. And I would really like to hear her voice and see what her concept is about the indigenous people and the land up north. And there's got to be a position for her somewhere in the Idaho history. We're ready to form a brand new history, and I'd just like to hear her voice. Of course, we know Bradley Little is homegrown and probably the best there'll ever be in the next dozen years. That's my professional opinion. And one more thing, a salute to all the sanitation engineers out there, the people that are out there right now running, getting ready for the heat and picking up people's refuse and garbage. They are some of the Lord's best, in my professional opinion. Love you, K. Millie. Bye.
Love you, R&R. Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. All right, thank you, Larry. Phone number is 536-580-KIDO. Liberty Linda, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Yes, good morning, Kevin. I wanted to talk about the 2,000 protesters against the 20 white supremacists, if you remember that on television. Anyway,
sure.
I feel so sorry for these young kids today that have been so totally brainwashed I mean, 2,000 of them showed up on the street. And, Kevin, you could see such hate in these kids' faces and the terrible language that they were using against these white supremacists. Well, it's okay to be against someone or disagree with someone. You know, we all have that right to do that. But I feel so sorry for them because they've been so brainwashed. I feel sorry for the children of today in our schools, what they're doing to them. It just really hurts me in my heart. Now, I've shared it with you before. Remember when I was going to the university and my law professor was spewing this hate against our country, and he kept doing it. And I would look around to everyone in the classroom, and they were all eating it up. They were all believing this man, and I thought he was a traitor to our beautiful United States. Well, finally, I did have to just get up and leave the room. But, you know, I should have done something about it at that time because I see what our children are going through today, and it hurts me in my heart. And, you know, everyone has a right to speak up for what they believe in, but can we do it with love in our hearts? I think that everybody that comes to this country, no matter what country they come from, I want to be kind to them. We all have feelings, and we should be kind to one another, even if we disagree. So basically, that's what I wanted to say this morning.
Liberty Linda, thank you.
Well, thank you, Kevin, for being there for us.
Well, that's what we're here for. We appreciate you. You have a great day, ma'am.
Oh, you as well. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up, your thoughts to Peter Strzok getting the boot last night on the Fox News channel. Remember, when you hear Fox News on the radio, you're listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Our great friend Sean Hannity, that you can hear every afternoon at 3, had this advice to Laura Ingraham.
Ingraham's tied, but it's about actor Chris Pratt. Let not your heart be troubled. The news continues. Ingraham, I hit the post. Tell Tucker how to hit the post. It's a radio thing.
Han-IT. I'm calling you Han-IT from now on.
Han-IT because I call you Ingraham?
Right.
It doesn't work.
CN.
It's not funny when you try to do it back. You got to think of something new, creative, and original.
Wait a second. You're talking to me about the need to come up with new jokes? Are you kidding me? You've been making that joke since 1997. Okay.
You are out of your mind.
Since 1997. You've been making that joke. Okay, so I don't think you.
Are you going to get in trouble every week on the air? Do you have to get in trouble every week? Oh, by the way, look at my tie. Could it be any more crooked than it is now?
Yeah, exactly. Well, only a man that's really filled with virility and testosterone can pull that one off.
He's wearing a pink tie, but I love that. Do you have to get in trouble every week? That is just funny stuff.
Vanity, but you got it. You got it.
What, that I straightened it out on air while I'm talking?
That salmon color is looking really good. This is fascinating. As fascinating as this is, I got to get to my show.
All right, have a great show. We have a little talk to come soon this week. I'll tell you about it later.
Okay, fantastic. All right, Henry, thanks so much.
All right, there we have it. A little back and forth between the Fox News anchors. By the way, not being reported by the media. Not being reported by folks in the Treasure Valley. They're too busy, ginning up this Omarosa story. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, it finally happened. It finally happened, long overdue. Here's our own Griff Jenkins on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio with the details.
Strzok was removed a year ago from the Russia probe after Mueller learned of the text. Then he was suspended and demoted following an inspector general's report in June of this year that criticized him for those text messages. Now gone, the president is celebrating his dismissal on Twitter, calling for a new investigation into his 2016 opponent, tweeting, "Just fired Agent Strzok, formerly of the FBI, was in charge of the crooked Hillary Clinton sham investigation. It was a total fraud on the American public and should be properly redone." Strzok is now at least the 6th senior FBI official to be fired, demoted, or departed as the FBI struggles to regain much lost trust with the American public.
Now think about that. Now, whether you voted for Donald Trump or not, whether you agree with the president or not, whether you're one of these libs that likes to listen to this program, much as some of us like to watch MSNBC, to watch the car wrecks, At 580-5436, 6 members, high-level members of the FBI have been fired. And still, where is the Robert Mueller? Where is the Robert Mueller to investigate Hillary Clinton and the FBI? And people want to go after Donald Trump and says, well, he's at war with the intelligence community. Yes. Does anyone not believe that they spied on him? Much like they did James Rosen, much like they did all of us under Obama. How many of you have seen that movie, The Dark Knight, with Heath Ledger, God rest his soul, and Christian Bale? And what does Batman do at the end of it? He co-ops all the cell phones, and there's no privacy. The biggest invasion of our own personal, patriotic security, our own inner privacy, happened under Barack Hussein Obama. And nobody can dispute that. He's the one that authorized the FBI, the NSA, the CIA to go after us, Americans attacking Americans. And look, you've got Edward Snowden in Russia right now, right? He exposed it, and nobody was arrested. That's what we need to get to the bottom of. More on that in a minute. Thank you for joining us. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning.
Omarosa, what's going on? I just saw on the news that you're thinking about leaving. What happened?
General Kelly came to me and said that you guys wanted me to leave.
No, nobody even told me about it. Nobody.
Wow.
You know, they run a big operation, but I didn't know it. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
God damn it. I don't love you leaving at all.
That is absolutely ludicrous and ridiculous. I've been in so many meetings with the two of those men. The president runs this country. He makes the decisions. He sets the policy, sets the tone, and does all of that at any point in time in a conversation. John Kelly executes exactly what the president wants him to do.
I think it's important to understand that if we make this a friendly departure, we can all be, you can look at your time here in the White House as a year of service to the nation, and then you can go on without any type of difficulty in the future relative to your reputation.
She's certainly violating national security regulations, which I think have the force of law.
And there we have it. Still waiting on Rachel Sutherland from Fox News Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning here. Good morning on KIDO Talk Radio. Your thoughts on this? Remember, Peter Strzok being fired as well. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. The Omarosa train continues. And I do like what Rich Noyes said about this. Look, this is the dog days of summer, and these things happen.
The very idea that a staff member, a former staff member, would go into the Situation Room and attempt to record someone else shows a complete disregard for national security. I can't believe someone would even think about doing something like that.
She's certainly violating national security regulations, which I think have the force of law.
And there we have it, Rudy Giuliani. As we move along. Now, we haven't heard from the president. We'll take your calls in a minute. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. No, Rachel? Roger that. We'll have her coming up. But take a look at this. This is, well, let's get to Hank first. Hank, I'm sorry for keeping you waiting. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Hank.
Well, good morning. Well, thank you for thinking about me. My point of it is this. There has to be criminal prosecutions, because if you don't stop this behavior, or there are not consequences other than getting fired, this will be repeated, and it'll have more serious consequences for the country. You can't have a republic if the law, if people, if one party can be freely framed another. There's two tiers of justice. You're in the Senate, ending the republic as we now know it. It becomes a one-party state. I mean, it seems like the Democrat Party is trying to become a one-party state, like in Russia with the Communist Party, where they frame and jail their opponents, and they become the only legitimate party in power. I mean, that seems to be the direction that they seem to be going, and we can't afford this if we're going to have a republic. And there in the Greg Jarrett book, the framing of Donald Trump, in other words, the exonerating Hillary and framing Trump at the same time, Strzok committed several different violations of federal code in there. He cites them in the book. And he also was responsible for the falsification of these FISA things. He was in charge of that investigation as well. And it's not a matter of just bias. He violated laws to do this. McComey, McCabe are guilty of, as you'll go through that book, he cites federal code for both of those guys were violated federal code. These guys need to go to jail or face consequences for their behavior. And I can't imagine why Mr. Sessions, I know you admire him, and I know you know him down there in Alabama, but I have to say that his performance as Attorney General, it's nice having all things about pot and all that, but what's far more pressing in terms of the Republic is taking action on this stuff and making sure that people like Hillary, who committed massive mail fraud, quid pro quo deals, Espionage Act violations, and also goes to jail for her behavior. I don't see him pressing for special counsel on this and other questions. It's nice to sit and make a little moralizing speeches, but the Republic is in danger if we don't do anything about this stuff.
Well, I would agree with you, and I think that something needs to be done about Omarosa too. You can't just tape people. You can't just do all these things. There has to be repercussions for this.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. She violated the law by tape recording. I'm sure that they told her in advance when she took the job what she could and couldn't do, or she's made aware of that. So she can't plead ignorance of the law. The fact that she did this, in a sense, she needs to face criminal charges for what she did in this mess. But I doubt in the present climate, because she's on the side of angels as far as the media and the Washington establishment, the swamp is concerned, they probably won't touch her either. So I think that Jeff Sessions needs to get off his tailgate, or Trump, and I think Trump needs to bear some responsibility in this too. He needs to insist on Sessions that he moves on this, and if he doesn't move on this, fire him. Don't make any hen's quits about it. And Rosenstein is one of the key conspirators. That man should not be conducting any investigations on anybody else. He should be facing charges himself. And here's a case where the Fox is running the hen house. The hen house has definitely Rod Rosenstein. And I find it incomprehensible that Trump himself hasn't been more aggressive on this. I can understand it up to a certain extent because of sensitivity, the possible, problems he'd have within the Republican Party and also with the press. But there's dire consequences for the Republic if we let these people get by with their crimes.
Fair enough. Hank, we appreciate you listening to KIDO Talk Radio.
Ryan, thank you for slipping me in there.
All right. Take care, sir.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Coming up, looks like a couple local school districts are looking for more money. We'll tell you about that coming up. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Other news of the day, the president making news on the Space Force. How about that?
Like the air, the land, the sea, space has become a warfighting domain. It is not enough to merely have an American presence in space. We must have American dominance in space, and that is why just a few days ago, the Vice President outlined my administration's plan to create a sixth branch of the United States military called the United States Space Force.
There we have it. I go back to that old animation from Japan, Star Blazers, the Space Force. Anyway, phone numbers, you've got them. Also, if you miss any part of the show, KIDOTalkRadio.com. Before we get to Max and more of your phone calls, let me just share you a clip that I think will make you smile.
Maxine. Boy, oh boy, I watch her. Crazy Maxine. Low IQ person.
Crooked Hillary, Lion Ted, Crazy Maxine. Max, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Hello, Max.
Hello, Kevin. How are you?
How do you, hold on one more time here.
Maxine.
Boy, oh boy, I watch her. Crazy Maxine. Low IQ person.
How do you respond to that one?
Oh, I have to agree with him on Maxine Waters.
Yeah.
She is a major league space case. She should be with our Space Force. No, I guess, though, I want to make one point really clear. It's obvious, but people are afraid to say it on the air. If Omarosa had been a white male, Omarosa would be in jail. You can't tell me she's not playing a double card. She's playing the race card. She's playing the female card. A black female just might get away with this. If you had done it, or I had done it, my friend, we'd be behind bars right now. Tell me I'm wrong.
Can't say that.
I can't say it, but I say it.
No, I can't say that. I can't say that you're wrong. I don't know, Max.
You'd be in jail.
I don't know, Max, if we're ever going to live to see the day where,
you know what?
if you're,
I think the Democrats have done enough damage to our society, but I have hopes that in 8 years in the presidency, Mr. Trump can help to set a direction that is very hard to pollute, even if a Democrat gets into office. Time will tell.
Fair enough, Max.
Hey, have a good one.
All right. I was going to have a conversation with him, but I think Max just wanted to get his words out, which is fine. That's what we're here for. If you're talking about it, we're talking about it. Phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up next, a few local school districts need some money. Are you willing to give it to them? We'll have that story up, plus your commentary with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio.
If passed this time around, the bond would go toward building a new elementary school.
That'll alleviate the stress that really is at two of our elementaries now and slowly creeping up at our third one as well as they start to reach capacity.
In addition to making upgrades at the existing Heights Elementary School, purchasing land for future schools.
Middleton, we had a demographic study done a year ago, and their projections a year ago was 1,000 students in the next 5 to 6 years.
In Parma, voters are being asked to approve a $5 million bond that would go toward improvements to the football stadium, tennis courts, expansion of the high school band room, and a new agriculture science classroom.
Well, as you know, in Canyon County, agriculture is the backbone of our economy, and that's very true in the Parma School District and Parma community. So we want to be able to offer our students top quality education so that they can expand and improve our ag sciences program here and move into the workforce.
This measure also failed last March by only 9 votes.
March is a difficult time for agriculture to have people come out and vote and get off the tractors. I understand that. Hopefully it's not that much easier in August, but maybe a little bit easier.
The Wilder School District is asking voters to approve a $5 million bond and levy that would go toward a new agriculture science facility, lunchroom, and kitchen. This measure also failed last March.
Again, Gretchen Parsons reporting early voting now until August 24th from 8 to 5. August 17th, by the way, is the last day to request an absentee ballot by mail. The polls on August 28th, Election Day, open at 8 and close at 8.
That's our friend Mark Johnson of Channel 7. The Channel 7 story, of course, our news partners. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Coming up, your thoughts on schools, money, and are you willing to pay for it? First, it is 6:55, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, traffic and weather together.
Larry Gibbard.
Thank you, Larry. Kevin Miller in the morning here. So, all these people moving in, and we've talked about it in Boise. We've talked about it in Meridian, Canyon County now. Look, we've covered it in the Nampa School District, the Valley View School District, and, it's like the roads. It's like the bridges. And for years, if you just tuned into this program, I said, look, you got to wait till there's an election year, right? Well, we had an election year. We had a big primary between the governors. I'd like to know the plan. You talk to the mayor of Meridian, Mayor Tammy, and she'll say, the state needs to kick in more money to fund these schools. And then you look at the schools and you look at the school budget. I mean, what is it? half of the state's general fund goes to education. And yet you still have the Catherine J. Albertson Foundation, whether you agree with the ads or not, giving us the scoreboard and with their research on how bad the state's doing in education. I don't know if being negative is the answer. I do know that education is the number one challenge, bigger than Boise State football, bigger than politics, heck, even I think bigger than Trump, President Trump, right? But everybody's taxes are going up. You take a look at what's going on in, Meridian, the new Owyhee High School. That's going to be rolling. Communities at their brink. Then you've got the smaller, more rural agricultural-based communities. They're seeing the same issues. Now, what's the master plan? Isn't that what we elect our public officials to do? Don't we hire people that are employed by the state, the cities, to take care of this? Instead, then you have a levy goes up, a levy goes down, and then they have another levy. And then you have people very mad because they don't like their taxes going up. But who's going to pay for the schools? Do you just say, okay, you come in from now on, everybody that brings their kid into the state, if their kid isn't born here, you're responsible for their own education. They can be homeschooled. They can be charter schooled. They can be, you can pay an additional tax for kids going to school. I mean, we have a stake in educating kids. And as you know, for however many years we've been doing this, promoting our schools, securing our future, we've been covering the good news about education, but who's going to pay for it? That's an issue that we'll continue to cover and get your thoughts on. Are you willing to ante up, Oakley? This morning,